Hello and welcome to the Good Stories podcast. My name is Jody and I'm glad to be here again with my brother Stephen. So before we get started with today's story, we have had our first question from a listener. I didn't tell you about it ahead because I thought it would just be fun to announce it like this.
I'm delighted.
This comes from a young man who heard our Mary Poppins episode, and we mentioned that stories like Mrs. Corey and the Dancing Cow might not have a specific moral, but they can be a kind of beautiful word picture that can stay with you. But the question is related to that: what is a moral? So how would you describe a moral?
I would describe a moral as an ethical point to be taken out of a story.
Ethical?
Yeah, usually ethical. Usually has ideas of good, bad, virtue, vice, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Usually that's a moral of a story.
I was thinking kind of right and wrong, a story that communicates something that kind of sticks with you after, a lesson, kind of a compass that shows you which way to go. So the ones that come to my mind off the top are like Tortoise and the Hare, where it is a word picture, but there's a lesson afterward that you can take with you. Should we go with that?
I would go with that. Yeah, a moral, or said more plainly, maybe a point of a story, right? Why is it being written and what can you take from it?
Yeah, and it's very Aesop fable-y, right? And so it's I think a kind of an interesting question because I think a lot of people use the word, well, the moral of the story is, but yeah, what's a moral? It's really the lesson and the takeaway, I think, from just a story that's designed to have a lesson in it.
I agree. I think that's a great question and worth thinking about.
So yes, thank you for the question. That was great. Actually, I was very excited. So if you have more, please reach out to us. We're happy to. I'll even give Stephen warning next time if you want. But yeah, it's fun to hear from you all. So if you have questions, let us know. It's fun to talk about. But our story today is actually an old friend of mine, and I think yours as well. It's called All Creatures Great and Small. It's the first of the James Herriot books. So this book is more than just a collection of stories. It's a glimpse into the life of a country vet in the 1930s as he worked in the Yorkshire Dales of England. They are packed with warmth, humor, and a deep love for animals. All of the events in the book are based on his real-life experiences, so I guess it's nonfiction fiction, in that they could only have been written from someone with his real knowledge of being a country vet nearly a century ago. But they certainly have more than a touch of storytelling magic. But such authentic and original people. Clearly, he didn't make all of them up. Probably my favorite part of this book is how much the stories vary chapter to chapter, just like in real life. His day-to-day experiences show up in this book, so some chapters are hilarious. Others, he's frustrated or looks like an idiot. And several of them make me cry. So I've been looking forward to this one.
I love this book too. I can't remember when I read it for the first time, but I do remember reading it for the first time. And I think I spoke on a past episode how this was the book that made me sad when I realized it was about to end, because I was so invested in it and enjoyed it so much that just the thought of the book ending was really hard for me at the time. Fortunately, there are a few other books in this series as well that we may talk about someday, and it really is a delightful collection of stories. This is a book that, yeah, it has sort of an overall plot, kind of, but really you could open this at any point in the middle. Each of the chapters seems to be its own self-contained story, short story, so it's a wonderful collection of these short stories, and I really do love it.
Yeah, I do think there's a redeeming point to reading them in order because of the seasons. So you start out with James Herriot out of veterinary school. Well, I'll let you do the story, but you do progress through summer, winter, all these, through the spring, and what that means to him as a it's fairly hard to say veterinary, a vet surgeon, a vet doctor.
We'll just go with vet.
A long time ago. So before we get into anything else, let's go with time for a story.
In the years between the World Wars, James Herriot graduated from veterinary college in Glasgow, Scotland, and started working as a country vet in the Yorkshire Dales of England. Under his eccentric employer, Siegfried Farnon, he falls in love with the land, the animals, the local farmers, the residents of Skeldale House, his home, and eventually a young woman named Helen. The reader gets to follow him through his journey as he gains clinical expertise and valuable life lessons through numerous interactions with both animals and people. The story ends with James Herriot happily married and raised to full partner in his country practice.
You just gave the ending right there. Boom.
It is the plot summary.
Yes, he does get married in the end. So it's, what do they say? It's a...
In a comedy, you get hitched. In a tragedy, everyone dies.
Yeah, there it is. It's comedy. He gets married at the end. And it is a comedy. It's very funny. So, Siegfried. He is my favorite character, although he drives me crazy as well. So, how do you want to do this?
I think we should start with James Herriot arriving at Derby. Derby is the fictional name of the city that he is going to be working at and living at. And in fact, all these names, not surprisingly, are changed. He uses names liberally throughout this book, first and last names, and they're a big part of it, but they're all made up, including James Herriot. It is a pen name, and we'll talk more about kind of the details and the real life of this behind it afterwards. But James Herriot on his journey to Derby, where just fresh out of college, out of his veterinary qualifications, where he is applying for a job. And he describes it as a fairly grim time for new veterinarians. There are so many, and there aren't that many jobs, that a lot of them were pretty desperate for work. He had been invited to this place he had never been, and so he got on a bus and went to Derby to meet his prospective employer. And so he gets there. It's a quaint little town. And then he comes up to Skeldale House, where he's going to be working. Oh, very much on time.
He is punctual.
And Skeldale House, I think, is a character in its own right. Has that always struck you?
Yes, I want to talk about that. But let's get through his first meeting first.
Well, he enters Skeldale House, which is this massive building, huge hallway, big place. He knocks on the door, and there is a storm of dogs barking. He states that originally he thought there must have been at least 14 of them, but eventually he was able to identify 5 that are just going nuts against the front door. This
barking
combination
and
of
slavering. They are not friendly for a place of business where people come all the time.
It seems terrifying, but they're jumping against the door, and then finally they are quieted because somebody approaches, and a very formidable woman opens the door with a deadpan face and basically says, "How can I help you?" To which he says, "Well, I'm here to apply for the position."
Oh, he has an appointment. He's here by request at a certain time of day. And she says, "Yeah, Mr. Farnon's not here."
Yeah, I think she tries to direct him to what the surgery times are.
Yeah.
Best time to bring in a dog is such and such. She's like, no, I've got an appointment. Turns out this is Mrs. Hall, the housekeeper. And she becomes an important character throughout this whole thing, but she's got no idea he's coming in. This doesn't fluster her, though.
None.
You get the sense from the beginning that she is not easily flustered.
And that it happens all the time.
Yes. Mrs. Hall invites him to come into the building and basically hang out in the front room until Mr. Farnon comes back.
Yeah, she gives him tea and he waits patiently, but then the bell rings again. And a young lady, well, nobody answers the door. And so he learns to yell at the dogs, and they defer meekly already. So maybe kind of cowardly, the dogs in the end. But he gives them a yell. He answers the door because nobody else is doing it, just ringing. And it's this young lady who's clearly wildly disappointed to see not Siegfried Farnon.
Yes. The ego hits he takes here are pretty extreme because he describes her as beautiful, as immaculately dressed, as clearly eager to see Mr. Farnon, and very disappointed that it's him.
Visibly. Yeah, but she too was invited to tea, which clearly he forgot as he had requested this appointment for an interview. So he invites her in, trying to be a good host, and it does not go well. She shuts him down hard, like, when's he going to be back? And yeah, no one knows. No one knows when he'll be back. Mrs. Hall is unflustered and does not care. And they wait. But there are a few more knocks at the door. One of the things that I love about this book is this was one of the first books that I encountered the concept of writing in vernacular or in dialect.
where he would write it in a way that they would speak. Now, we've already talked about the fact that I don't pronounce English properly, and so I'm certainly not going to pronounce dialect properly,
Oh, you've
but
got no chance with the Yorkshire accent.
none whatsoever.
Give it a whirl.
But I'm going to try
Go in
on
big.
some of these because this gives an example of the way he writes through this book and the way he brings the characters to life. So there's a guy that knocks on the door, describes him as a plump man in Wellington boots. You'll hear the term Wellingtons a lot. It means boots. Those are the big farm boots that they wear.
Aren't they slip-ons?
Yeah. I mean, they remind me of the old kind of rubber boots that we used to get when we were kids when we
tall.
would go out. Yeah, tall Wellingtons. So this guy comes up and he says, hello, Mr. Farnon in? Not at the moment. Can I help you? Pause. I love how he just steps into this. Somebody is showing up at the door and he's going to answer it and see what he can do. So, not at the moment. Can I help you? Aye. Give him a message when he comes in. Tell him Bert Sharp of Barrow Hills has a cow what wants boring out. Boring out? That's right. She's no but going on 3 cylinders. 3 cylinders? Aye, and if we don't do something, she'll go wrong in a euro, won't she? Very probably. Don't want felon, do we? Certainly not. Okay, you'll tell him then. Ta-ta. I returned thoughtfully to the sitting room. It was disconcerting that I had listened to my first case history without understanding a word of it.
You had a bit of the Irish in there.
I'm sorry, yeah. Well,
No, it was good. Good job.
The next guy that knocks at the door is an Irishman. Do you remember him? So this is the guy that shows up because his dog is vomiting. Vomiting bad, sir. And he's stone deaf. So Herriot has to keep just yelling at this guy. And here he understands vomiting. He's a veterinarian. So he's thinking, well, maybe I can help. And so he tries to ask follow-up questions and the guy just can't hear anything. And only ends with vomiting bad sore. And so he ends up leaving and he says, well, he'll let Mr. Farnon know. So there's these encounters, these things keep happening, and James just gets tired after a while. He's still waiting. No clue what's going to come up. He's been stressed out about this because it's a job interview. He also doesn't really know how he's going to get home because he had to pay to come to the bus here. And so he goes out into the garden.
Well, finally, the lady leaves in disgust.
Oh, yeah.
Like, oh, I'm out. Yeah. But yeah, the garden at Skeldale House is something I envy. And it is just out of that time even 100 years ago, where it had been established so long before, and it was unkempt but beautiful, where wisteria just grows wild and the trees are huge and unkempt, and it's just beautiful the whole time. So he takes a nap in the garden.
Yeah, what else can you do? He lays down and takes a nap. And through this, he's been picturing what this boss is going to be. This guy.
Yeah, named Siegfried.
Siegfried? Yeah. Clearly, this is a German of some kind. And so this lends himself to some bad dreams where a guy with a really thick German accent is yelling at him and insulting him. But then he says he wakes up to a very English, like, hello. And we get to meet Siegfried, which he describes as about the most English-looking man he had ever seen, and basically says, yeah, I'm sorry, I've got the worst memory. It really is shocking. It's nice to meet you. And this is how he encounters Siegfried and how he comes into Skeldale House.
Yeah, I love Siegfried. And his memory is horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Recurring problem. And he's very unapologetic about it, actually. But in my mind, he looks a lot like the actor David Niven.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of thinking about him.
And even for all the muck and mire they tromp through with animals and stuff, very just he has a debonair style, but it's very calm in its way.
He keeps talking about how he often looks like a duke.
Yeah.
Even just wearing, normal things. I mean, and
he just can't help it.
Yeah, and it's Siegfried. Siegfried, as we go through this, we'll learn is brilliant, is bold. He's got high energy, big ideas, zero memory, and is kind of a little insane.
He's infuriating. I mean, if you were to be an employer, it would be horrible. But anyway, Siegfried invites James in to tour the place, and they talk, and they both just kind of nerd out on how wonderful veterinary sciences are, and they look at old tools that are almost in a museum. They're just in a room that nobody touches, but these old tools that look like they're from, the Middle Ages torture device. But that's how the profession used to work. That's what they had. And then he shows them his lab and all these different things. And I know this speaks a little bit to your heart and the tools and the medicines. I don't know the names. None of the names in this do I know of the medicines.
It does speak to my heart. So for those of you who don't know, I'm a family physician. I'm a practicing doctor. And so when I read this first was back when I was real young, but then I've read it many times since. And when I read it after I went through my residency, it just spoke to me in a whole new way, because that's very much what we see in this first book is James Herriot going through what is essentially his residency. We're also seeing him do it, though, in the 1930s, where medicine is very different, where the treatments are very, very different. And even that, though, was new from what was done the century before. And so Siegfried talks about how he bought this practice from an old vet who had been doing it for like 50 years, but then just didn't want to do it anymore. He got too old. And so a lot of these old things are stuff that the old vet used in practice. And rather than just getting rid of them as archaic, they kind of treasure them as remnants of the past, as ways that veterans in the past had dealt with all the problems they keep dealing with. And then he talks too about the fact that all the stuff that they're using then during this, that he had worked so hard to learn about and study in, was about to become obsolete. Because the antibiotics were coming, modern medicines were coming. But this was what they had. And that's part of the delight of this book, is that it's a snapshot of how you practice medicine on animals in this transition time, where there's this beginning of scientific rigor, this beginning of modern treatment methods, but not what we have now. And so that's where some of the fun comes into it.
It's not just the medicines either, because he talks about how this is still the time of the horse. You see a horse in a cart. The tractors were starting to come in, but he talks about it. They hadn't hit the death knell of the horse and cart yet. And the horse is a big mover in farming. And so they do a lot of horse work. I mean, I can't actually imagine the transition that would be to go from an animal-based farming to mechanized farming. And again, this is part of that transition.
Yeah, that he got to experience, he got to witness it firsthand. And it's very, very cool. So he's talking with Siegfried. They're talking about the practice. They're nerding out together, like you said. And then Siegfried says, "Come on along. We've got some cases."
Yeah.
So James tells him about the two guys that showed up. He tells him about the guy talking about the ewer and felon and
boring
three
out.
cylinders and boring out. And Siegfried's able to translate it. He says, these are the local terms for these things you learned about in veterinary school. And then he talks about, there was an Irishman that came in, and Siegfried stops him, holds up a hand. Let me guess. Vomiting?
Not his first visit.
Yeah, he knows that guy.
Vomited bad, sir.
Yeah. The two of them, though, go out and they start seeing a couple of these cases. They see things like a horse that's lame, and Siegfried has him treat the horse. He has him carve into the hoof. And this is really where you start to see that Siegfried has a showman streak to him. One of the things he does with these horse hooves after he's, drained the infection out of the hoof is he drops a few tablets of iodine and then some turpentine over the top of it, and it explodes in this billowing purple cloud. This is a worthless medical endeavor. It doesn't actually do anything, but it looks really cool. And part of what Siegfried is talking to James about is how hard it is sometimes to talk these guys into paying for veterinary care. And so he'll do things like this to just really impress them.
I think he also just enjoys it. And it does call out how much respect the Dales farmers have for it. Like, wow, that is powerful stuff. Because it has the vision, the visual. It's very cool. But you forgot to mention his car.
Oh, tell us about the car.
So
all the cars are great. But
all the
yes.
cars. The cars are an ongoing issue, and James is in the passenger seat, and Siegfried drives very fast. And so he hops in the passenger seat, excited to go on calls with his potential boss. And as soon as Siegfried hits the gas, the entire seat flips fully onto its back. So he's lying there in the car. And apparently this is normal. And Siegfried's like, it does that. Sorry. And they set it back up and over again.
He's very kind and apologetic about it,
Sure.
but he's not getting it fixed.
No. The cars are very funny.
The cars are great. he goes and he does these different visits. He watches Herriot do some of this basic care stuff, and it's just funny. I mean, every one of these farm visits has something usually funny and humorous. He talks about the horse that he's taking care of the infection on the hoof, decides to lean on him.
Well, his foot had been hurting.
Yeah.
So he puts his full horse weight on the guy's back.
And so Herriot in this job interview is talking about, yeah, I'm about to fall flat on my face because what else can I do? At another one of the farms in this first encounter, a cow kicks him, like knocks the wind totally out of him. And that's just what happens. The farmer cracks up because apparently the farmers always crack up when bad things happen to the vet. And this was his first experience, but he must have handled it well because Siegfried keeps taking him around, and then finally they end up in a pub.
That's where they always end up.
I was amazed the first time I read through this about just how much drinking occurs in this book.
Oh, wow, a lot. Yeah.
Day drinking, night drinking, it's just what they do. Apparently, drunk driving was not a crime at the time.
I guess there just weren't enough cars
Must
for
be.
it to be a risk.
But the pubs are wonderful. The conversations he has. And this is also where you start to see that this book is not just going to be about animals, it's going to be about people. Because a lot of what you learn from this book, or what I learned from this book, has to do with these conversations and these interactions and these people coming together. And so the first pub scene really sets the tone for that. He goes in, he describes it as basically a big kitchen where people happen to eat and drink. And all of a sudden, he's one of many in this pub. They kind of all take him in. They're telling stories. Everyone's buying each other drinks. And he has a great time. And then there's the little man who gives them the advice.
Yeah. He tells him the secret, like, psst, come here.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
Apparently all farmers who have been doing this for a while have their secrets. And Herriot had been doing this for long enough, even at this point, to know that these were worthless, that there was nothing that he was going to learn from it that was going to be valuable. But he engages with this lonely little man. He listens to them and he gives him respect, and he listens as if that individual had something worth saying.
Oh, he makes the guy tear up like, now you know, son.
He does. He's going to give him the secret. He keeps talking about how many people have tried to get this out of me. I could have made money out of this. And Herriot's like, you're going to tell me? Yeah. You're going to tell me what this is? What are you going to tell me? It's the cure for malanders and salanders and horses.
He's like, not malanders and salanders.
It's a nonsense statement. What is that?
But he goes with it
seriously. You know? And then it's something ridiculous like marshmallow cream or something like that. And he shakes his hand.
Earnestly, yes. Yeah. It's James, I don't know what kind of stories he'd actually tell about himself, because the ones about himself, it's from his own perspective. Mm-hmm. So, if someone else were telling stories about him, I wonder what they'd be. But in these, often he looks like an idiot and he rolls with it, but he's always very kind and polite. And I think that's probably true. And he has a respect for the people there. And that goes a long way.
Yeah.
So, and that's evident in the first one. And now he knows the cure for malanders and salad. What a big day.
It never comes up again in the book.
It didn't need to. He already had it.
So good.
Anyway, he gets the job. Hey.
Once he gets the job, though, it takes a little while before he gets going. I mean, apparently Siegfried was willing to set him loose when he was watching him directly, but to actually send him out on his own, it took a little bit. And the first case he has is not the easy case he was hoping it would be coming out of college.
No, hard first one.
Yeah. Siegfried disappears a lot. He goes off to Broughton to visit his mother. The book talks about he always comes back flustered and smelling of gin. James does not really think he's visiting his mother.
After a while, he
during these trips,
kind of guesses. But yeah, Siegfried is off somewhere. The phone rings and James gets to go on his own call.
He gets to go on his first one, and it is an angry, pushy man who is asking for Mr. Farnon. He wants nothing to do with James. He wants nothing to do with any of that. He's got a horse. It's got colic, and he says, you need to come bring this specific thing, and you need to treat him with it. James says, well, all right, and he goes. Colic is a nondescript term that refers to all sorts of gastrointestinal things. And what the horseman wants him to administer is a shot that will help basically move the bowels so that he feels better, is the idea behind it. And for colic, yeah, that's often something that gets done. Well, James shows up at this farm and it is not colic. There is a horse that is absolutely writhing in pain. It is dying, essentially. He does his evaluation, and what it ends up being that he knows almost immediately from his examination is a twisted bowel. So this is where the intestine turns on itself and actually dies. And at this time, there was really nothing that could be done for that. Then ensues an argument between him and the horseman. The horseman keeps saying, give him this treatment, which if James had done that, it would have driven the horse absolutely mad. It would have been the absolute wrong thing to do. James has to do something here. And so in this argument, in this fight with this horseman, what he ends up doing is saying, look, you need to put this horse down because of the degree of suffering this horse is having. And the horseman isn't having any of that.
I mean, he was angry to start.
Yes.
And so this news, he is shocked and appalled, outraged. But James does it.
Yeah.
And good on him.
What else could he do? It was the right thing to do.
Kicking it down the road, but he has a really strong awareness that he is there to care for the animals. And this animal's in agony. And so he takes care of it. And the guy is in his face and outraged, and I'm, your boss will be hearing from me, kind of even more than that.
Yeah, you're done. Your career's over. Like you say, irate. He is furious about this. Well, Herriot leaves, because what else can he do? And he sits up, waiting for Siegfried to come home. Siegfried does come home, pleasantly flushed. And James tells him about this. As he's there, the horseman calls, and he hears Siegfried on the phone. And this is part of why I love Siegfried in the books, is he is insane, he is infuriating, he will drive you nuts, but he backs up James without blinking. He has him in his corner. And he says, I'll be out first thing in the morning to do a postmortem. And he hangs up. And then they talk.
And drink.
They pull out the scotch bottle and they knock off a scotch bottle together. And they stay up all night just talking and drinking. And they wrap up at like 5 a.m. James goes to bed for an hour, but then gets up to be at breakfast, shaved and ready to go. Siegfried's already gone. He didn't even bother to go to sleep.
I do not know when these people sleep. But this is not life lessons, people. These are wildly active men. This is the only way that they are not dead from the amount of drinking that they do.
Don't do this.
Don't do this. Horrible life advice. But yeah, he's already up and out, and that's the diagnosis. Yep, totally right. It was the perfectly right choice and action to take. Doesn't mean the guy is less angry, but at least Siegfried knows, hey, James made the right call in a tough place, too.
And we'll stand up. We'll make a decision. We'll do what he thinks is right. And this is really where things get going. Because at this point, he sets James on his rounds, Siegfried does his rounds, and they are both practicing together in the Yorkshire Dales.
So I happened across a term just in prepping for this called narrative medicine that I had not really heard. Have you heard of that, Mr. Doctor?
I have not.
It's a thing in more modern medicine, but I think what it is it's trying to understand a patient through their story. Be like, so tell me what's wrong. And so that was the commentary on these Herriot books, is that he was doing that before it was a thing. That's entirely what these stories are, whether it's about the people or the animals or the people through the animals. You learn so much about them in the community and the Dales and the farmers there and just how life there worked.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk about it in modern medicine, that diagnosis is 90% history. That you can get just about everything you need to know about what you're going to do, what the plan is based off what they tell you. The other 10% is labs and physical exam and studies and things. So yeah, that is very much a thing.
Do you want to talk more about Siegfried, or should we pull in Tristan?
I think we should pull in Tristan, the other main player in Skeldale House.
Siegfried has a brother named Tristan, his younger brother. And I should say, James lives at the house. So it's not just a wage, it's board, and a room and board as well. And a car, such as it is.
Sort of.
But Tristan is also in veterinary school, and he comes home, but after testing, And he shows up. I don't know. Was Siegfried home? I don't remember.
Siegfried asks James to go pick him up.
That's right.
Because he's hitchhiking home.
Right.
He says he'll call you when he gets close enough to get picked up. And so that's what happens. James hears the phone, and then he goes out to pick up this guy who sounds exactly like his brother on the phone.
He's a lot like his brother, but they drive each other nuts. Especially Tristan drives Siegfried nuts. So yeah, he goes and picks up Tristan. And he's just described so wonderfully. He has an air of ineffable pleasure and comfort at all times. And he's always smoking a Woodbine. That's his brand, apparently.
That's a kind of cigarette.
Yeah.
Again, don't do that either.
Don't do that either. He's a doctor.
But Tristan loves it.
He does. James asked him, how did tests go? And well, that one went okay, but that one didn't. And the real interaction begins when Tristan has to relay to his big brother, who pays for it, presumably his schooling, that he didn't pass, I forget which one, anatomy.
There was pathology and parasitology.
Parasitology.
The two classes that he took. And the way Tristan delivers this is pretty great because Siegfried is asking, well, how did it go? And Tristan's response is, I did all right in the one of them. I can't remember which one. In pathology. And parasitology, didn't get it. And then Siegfried blows up.
Every time they speak, he blows up. Tristan always presents things very polished, very confidently. He has a quiet dignity about him. He always retreats with a quiet dignity, even after he gets laid into by his brother, who's always canning him, you're out of here.
You're sacked.
You're sacked.
You're sacked.
And he retreats with a quiet dignity. And James bumps into him in the hall, and is like, oh, that was rough. I'm so sorry. He's like, oh, no, it wasn't too bad at all. Not their first rodeo.
No. Well, James asks, well, where are you going to sleep tonight? He's like, what do you mean? I mean, he sacked you, right? And Tristan you don't understand. I'll be at breakfast in the morning. I'm sleeping here. He's always sacking me. He always forgets. It'll be fine. And then he says, actually, that went way better than I expected. And James says, well, what do you mean? That seemed like it was awful. And he said, well, the hard part was getting him to swallow the bit about pathology.
The one he did all right.
Yeah, I very specifically did not say I passed. He failed them both. He said, but don't worry. I'll go back and I'll pass them at Christmas. And he does.
And he does with seemingly no effort. That's what's crazy.
James talks about the fact that he seems to have some understanding with the authorities at school because he doesn't really go back to school when he's supposed to. He spends a lot of time at home for somebody who's supposed to be studying, but things just tend to work out for Tristan.
They do.
Things work out well for him.
And yet he's still so likable.
Yeah.
Tends to be characters like that you kind of get annoyed with. No, Tristan he's great.
And everyone likes him except Siegfried.
Except Siegfried, who's so much like his brother. A lot of people just they are debonair. They have a presence about them, and things just kind of work out. I think Tristan even says that things have a way of working themselves out for you.
Well, while we're talking about Scaledale House and the members in it, there's one other character in Scaledale House that shows up, and that's Boardman. Mm-hmm. Boardman is basically what would you call his role? It's kind of the handyman.
Caretaker. He kind of keeps the cars and makes sure the snow's shoveled. You can get the doors open. Kind of a caretaker. I mean, he's not gardening, but I think just kind of general maintenance. He seems to sit in the outside shed a lot, and he has old posters and things. He definitely lives in his memories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. I think he is where we see some remnants of the scarring of World War I. He talks a lot about the old doctor and what Scaledale House was like before, when there was a full suite of servants, a full staff, and the doctor was so impressive in what he did. And then he would look around to kind of what it was now. And he talks about how World War I basically kind of ended that. Everyone's in a hurry now, as opposed to before. It's this transition time we get to see.
I think that about the entire book, where James slows down once he gets to Darrowby and Scaledale House. And he talks about the air outside, and even when he's out on calls, where I can't remember exactly how he phrases it, something to the effect of he spent more than his fair share of time just standing and looking, because he had just such an appreciation for the beauty of the place, both the house and the dales, the hills, the valleys, the becks, the waters and the rivers. And I think the whole book is slowed way down. And so maybe Boardman wouldn't think so, but compared to now for us,
Yeah,
absolutely.
you are correct.
And so Tristan, I like about him, he enjoys listening to Boardman's stories.
Yeah, Boardman will talk with him.
Yeah.
And he'll sit and hang out and chat and really
Tristan's
enjoy
slower.
Tristan's company.
So but maybe my favorite Tristan thing that he does, because Siegfried wants him to work, right? Earn his keep. He has a invariable method for filling his day, where as soon as Siegfried leaves on calls, he has a ritual where he like partially fills a bottle with parts of medicines, because he's supposed to keep these things and mix and all this stuff. And then he has a high back chair where he can sleep comfortably but be kind of hidden. And so he just sleeps all day. He reads the paper, he smokes his woodbines, he enjoys himself in his comfortable chair. And when he hears Siegfried come in, he starts shaking the bottle like he's been working so hard all day. And then he goes and he tops it off and puts it on a shelf.
That's right.
It's a very good method, actually.
He does say there's one fault to it, though. When he hears the door open, he can't tell who it is. And so James says that many a time he walked in to see a bleary-eyed Tristan just waking from a nap, shaking this bottle. when he came in.
It's funny that that's easier than just doing some work, but
Yeah, the amount of work he puts into not working is impressive.
it is. Who do you want to go to next? There's all sorts.
There are all sorts. And as I said earlier, you can really jump into this book at any point. I agree, at least the first time reading through is worth reading it in sequence. But each one of these stories just jumps out in its own fun way.
So he starts in the summer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we don't get to spring till later. And spring's its own crazy mess with animals. Can you imagine? But yeah, in the summer, there's, again, that slowness. And then once they get to winter, oh man, it shuts everything down.
I listed out just some of the names and some of the stories, kind of the way they show up in the order of the book. The first story that comes up in the book is the Bellerbys. So this is a family that he goes and he does something on the farm. One of the things that James loves about the farmers around here is that they're very hospitable. And so frequently after he's taken care of the animal, they'll say, come in for a bit of dinner. That's a pretty standard thing. And at this one, they offered that too. But among the Bellerby family, there is a young lady, the daughter, who is highly motivated for the family to be more cultured. And on this particular day, there is going to be a performance of Handel's Messiah in the town. She asked James whether they can ride with him down to the town because they don't have a car. And he says, sure, yeah, absolutely. Happy to do it. What then proceeds to happen is several hours of them eating an enormous meal, smoking, drinking tea,
Slowly.
stalling, then trying to get the brother to come with them, and then he's got to wash up and get dressed.
And James is pulling his hair out by trying to be polite.
Because he doesn't want to be late.
Maybe we should go.
And it's one of the first great examples of how the interaction with time is definitely different among the farmers. He gets them there a little bit late. Everyone looks at them as they're walking in, and it's just fun.
They
It's
are
a good
unashamed.
story. They are not.
He feels the pressure. They do not.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. My book, that one's near the end.
Oh, really?
Totally different order.
Oh, yeah. That was one of the first ones in mine.
So, no problem. So, Siegfried has some capriciousness. He thinks people who keep animals as pets are idiots. Just dumb. Who would do that? But if you think back, there were 5 dogs living in his home and place of business at all times. And turns out they go with him everywhere. So there's a comment about people will be sitting in the car with Siegfried and his 5 dogs surrounding him. And he will go on this rant about how dumb people are to keep animals as pets. I thought that was very funny.
I love that too. Siegfried also, I guess we could talk lots more about Siegfried. One of the reasons he's infuriating is James frequently talks about his patient expression.
Oh, the patient face.
Because Siegfried will tell James something, and James will dutifully take it to heart, try and live it out, try and enact it. And then a week later, Siegfried will say, "What are you doing?" Do the exact opposite, and then will lecture him about his shortcomings.
With the patient face. Like, James, you're young. What's funny is Siegfried's like 5 or 6 years older than him.
He's
like,
not much older.
You're just so young. Let me help you.
There's one scene where this has all occurred, and James is holding a surgical tray, and the line is great. It says, "If I drop the tray right now, I could fell him with a left hook."
He's like, "I know you listen when I talk, James." He's like, "Yes, every time I listen." But it's things like being efficient with the material. Like, I know you don't have to pay for this stuff, but I do, as the owner. But then Siegfried's, using rolls and rolls of cotton and powder and all these things. So yeah, he's a little hypocritical, and he just does not ever see it, but he is very funny.
Or the one where he tells James he comes in just exhausted to breakfast one morning because they go out in the middle of the night. They get called all the time to go do things. And Siegfried got called in the middle of the night for some trivial thing. And so he's at breakfast just exhausted, and he says, "James, this is your fault. You're spoiling these farmers. You keep going out whenever they call you for the trifling things, and it's falling on me because now they're calling me." And James said, "Well, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. I'm worried that if I didn't go out, the animal would die." And Siegfried says, "Well, it serves him right. It would make him call him sooner. Nothing like a dead animal to bring him to their senses." And James took this to heart. And a week later, at breakfast, Siegfried comes in and says, "James, such and such farmer said he called you and you wouldn't come out." And James says, "Well, yeah, it was this trivial thing, obviously over the phone." He gets this lecture on how he must attend no matter what.
You must go.
And these are the reasons you kind of hate Siegfried, right? where he's just infuriating. But then on the flip side, we talked about how he supports James, how he's in his corner, how he backs him up. The other thing to know about Siegfried is he is a brilliant surgeon. That comes really clearly through on this. He is far superior technically to James. He doesn't even
a surgeon
pretend.
And a horseman. James talks about how people who are horse people, you can't learn it later in life. You're kind of born with it or you're not. And so Siegfried is a horseman as well.
Very much. And he says that the horses know that, too.
Yeah.
He says that if there's a great horseman, the horse is docile around them. With a cow, you could be a world expert. If the cow's going to kick you, it's going to kick you. It doesn't matter. But with a horse, this makes a difference. One of Siegfried's things is he goes through this flurry where he decides he wants the surgical procedures to be more impressive. He wants it to be a show. He wants it to be something that inspires and motivates and really just looks good for the farmers. And there's a surgery that they're going to do on a cow. The cow had swallowed a wire, and so it's stuck in one of the four stomachs of the cow, and they're going to go take care of this. And this is Siegfried's chance to really do this right. And so Tristan and James go with him. They bring this whole panoply of equipment. It's all gleaming, it's sparkling, it's sterile, it's white. They set up this whole thing. They put the cow down. The farmer is watching this, who's an old friend of Siegfried's, and they're about to just make this happen. And so Siegfried steps up to the cow, gleaming white smock, and he takes the scalpel and he does a confident, bold stroke. And all of a sudden, there's this bulge comes out. This organ thing just like comes out of this cut. And he doesn't know what this is. So he's like pushing it back in and it comes out, and he's pushing it back in and it comes out. James kind of comes over and looks over, and Siegfried's asking, "What is this?" I'm wondering if it's like an organ they don't know about. Finally, he says, "You know what? I bet this is just gas. So there's some gas in here. I'm going to release this and then we're going to be okay." So he's holding this protrusion out, pops it with a scalpel, and you can guess what happens next. This liquid goo gut context comes shooting out of this at high pressure. So with this attempt to make this wonderfully impressive surgery, he ends up being just coated in filth and muck and slime, which is flying everywhere. He can't let go of it because if he does, it's going to infect the cow. So he's doggedly holding on to this while this gross thing is just happening. Well, he's covered in filth and slime. He ends up actually being able to go in, get the wire out, sew it back up. They're all done. And it talks about how they're like throwing water on him from a pump to try and get him to clean up. And it's just not working. So he's sitting in the car at the end of it with the other two guys, and he's just covered in muck.
They're trying to lean back as far as possible.
But then he turns to them and smiles. He grins and says, "You know what, boys? That was a successful surgery." And this is another reason why I like Siegfried. You just can't keep him down.
He's got good attitude, that's for sure. Gross story to share, but yeah, that one.
It had to happen.
Good one. Good one, guys.
Well, what would you like to share? What story would you like to talk about?
I mean, can we talk about Tricki Woo?
Please. Mrs. Pumphrey and Tricki Woo.
So Mrs. Pumphrey is a recurring character, as is Tricki Woo. She's a rich old lady who doesn't have any other family, I believe, but she has a little Pekingese dog named Tricki Woo, who he's not just spoiled. He is beyond pampered. I mean, she feeds him cake and chicken, and he's Master Tricki. He is lord of her house, really. But he's just this happy little chubby dog. So James Herriot, he's a favorite of Tricki Woo's. And so the quote is, "I had been made an uncle very early on, and sensing the advantages of the relationship, made no objection. Uncle Herriot comes to visit Tricki, and he gets drinks, and he has a special towel and soap in the bathroom, and yes, very many special privileges. I think he has a special chair of his own. I mean, it is quite the thing, but the thing she calls the vet about for Tricki Woo, the one that comes to mind is Flopbot. He has Flopbot. Frequently. He does. Which is, I think, where he's like rubbing his butt on the ground like dogs do. And she's, oh no. So James comes and he squeezes his glands and he feels all good again. And yes, he benefits greatly for it with cigars and all kinds of things. So that's just the first time we meet Tricki Woo. But there are many more.
I think maybe we should take a couple of these in order. I don't know that I have a favorite, but there's a few that are wonderful.
It kind of progresses, yeah.
It does, because what ends up happening is James gets invited to a party at Mrs. Pumphrey's house.
It's Tricky's birthday.
You have to understand, Mrs. Pumphrey is loaded. She is rich. Apparently, she's also very kind, very smart, very intelligent. She gives widely to charities. I mean, she's a really cool person, but she's got a blind spot, and it's Tricki Woo. Well, Tricki Woo invites James to the party.
He gets a personal letter. Oh, wait, I forgot to mention that Tricki has a pen pal.
Tell us about the pen pal.
I don't remember his name, but somehow he reached out to another dog friend saying that he would like to have a pen pal relationship.
He wrote to a dog magazine.
Oh, that was...
And the magazine editor, sensing that Miss Pumphrey had some money and a sizable donation, found a Dalmatian in among the commoners to write back. And I don't remember the name of him, but the commoner, he now has a pen pal that they write back and forth.
And she speaks of him like he makes these decisions and he was very upset about this thing. But so yes, James gets a personal invitation from, not Mrs. Pumphrey, but from Tricki himself, inviting him to Tricky's birthday party.
And he's so embarrassed. He's hiding it as Siegfried walks through the hall because James has been ridiculed, deservedly, quite a bit about this. Well, Siegfried sees it and says, well, what's that there? And he says, oh, you're going to find out anyway. And Siegfried reads it and he says, well, what are you going to do? And James says, well, I'm going to decline, of course. And Siegfried says, no, you go. Mrs. Pumphrey's parties are legendary. You go, you hire a suit, rent a suit, and you make sure you go. But first of all, or sit down right now and write a response saying you're going to be there. and make sure you address it to Tricki.
Siegfried knows how to play the game, actually much better than James does. But he goes to this party, and it's funny, Tricky's not even there. He's in his own little quiet place with a fire, and he's just happy. And James has to scold Mrs. Pumphrey for all the cake on the ground, and then for Tricki, like, I told you he's not going to be well. But so he has to scold her, and she's always abashed. But this party cracks me up. Mrs. Pumphrey calls a servant over, Francois. I remember his name.
I love Francois.
And she's like, Francois, do you see this man? I want you to look at him. Do you know who this is? I want you to make sure his glass is never empty. He has all the food he wants. You stick with him and get him everything. Noted.
And he does.
He does.
And it's a wonderful party for James. He gets to drink champagne by the liter. He's got all sorts of food coming to him.
Again, this is not good life advice. But a magnum of champagne keeps being refilled. Oh, my land.
He's dancing with people. He's talking. He's having just a great time. So Mrs. Pumphrey's party was a win.
But then he goes home, falls into bed, and like 10 minutes later, the phone rings, and he has to go out on a call full of champagne and exhausted. And it's something terrible, too, where he's down in the muck, and he's stripped to the waist. And
I think he's delivering a calf or something.
It describes how the last bubbles of champagne, he can visualize them exploding as this is back to real life now. But it was nice of Tricki to invite him,
It was. I think my favorite Tricki stories, though, are really when Tricki gets very sick. Remember that one?
Yeah.
So Mrs. Pumphrey just spoils him, loves him to death. And so Tricki becomes fat. Dangerously fat and overweight, to the point where he starts having almost seizure-like episodes where he can't move, can't do anything. It's real scary. The term for this, as opposed to flopbot, is cracker dog.
Cracker dog.
He goes cracker dog, and this keeps happening more and more often. And finally, Herriot makes a plan and says, okay, the only way we can take care of this is we need to hospitalize him. And so he goes and he takes Tricki Woo from a weeping Miss Pumphrey.
And all his accoutrements.
All of them. Well, they get thrown in the car, as many as they can, before he drives away. And he takes him back to Scaledale House. And the treatment is just great. For like 2 days, he doesn't do anything other than lying him in a bed near the other 5 dogs and giving him water. And then after that, what happens is Tricki slowly gets introduced into the company of the other 5 dogs. He slowly gets his own bowl of food with the other 5 dogs that they all feed together. And Tricki loves it. All of a sudden, he starts playing. He's wrestling with the other dogs. He's, out hunting in the garden. I mean, he gets to have a country excursion. And he starts losing weight, and he becomes healthy and fit.
Yeah.
While this is going on, though, what is Mrs. Pumphrey doing?
She keeps sending gifts to Tricki, and the men enjoy them very much. So she sends like 24 eggs a day or something. And so Siegfried and Tristan get on board with Tricki Woo because they get all these eggs, and then they get sherry that they have with lunch. And so many toasts are given
and then
to
brandy.
Tricki. Yeah,
finally.
And then brandy. And so all the toasts are to Tricki. And then as his uncle, James's job is to respond to the toasts. And so they have a wonderful time.
He says the quality of toast making improves. Yeah. He said it was a real temptation to just keep Tricki there but they knew how much Miss Pumphrey missed him. So they called her. She showed up within like 10 minutes of him calling her. And Tricki, he doesn't let Mrs. Pumphrey come back in to see how Tricki is living. He goes and grabs Tricki and brings him out to her. And he's healthy and lithe and thin and just Mrs. Pumphrey is delighted. And I love as he's driving away, she turns to James and says, "This is a triumph of surgery."
She does not get it.
No.
But Tricky's very happy to see his person as well, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's only one more Tricki Woo story, and that's when he gets a brother. Can we call it a brother?
Sure, let's call it a brother.
Yeah, Siegfried's like, hey, Miss Pumphrey called. She wants you to go see her pig. And James was like, no, you mean peak. He's a Pekingese. And like, no, pig. She gets a pig and she wants him to live in the kitchen. And so James shows up at her mansion and there's a pig in the kitchen. He's like, he cannot live in here. And the cook is like, thank God. Because Mrs. Pumper did not realize that this was not. So they build him this palace outside. And his name is Nugent.
Isn't that wonderful? I love Nugent.
So yes, Tricki Woo and Nugent live long, happy, spoiled lives.
And James loves them both. He says he does really like Tricki Woo, and he really likes Nugent. He says he's a charming, friendly little pig. But he says that he really did try to hide those postcards from Siegfried.
Yeah. And the Christmas cards. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the Christmas hamper they enjoy very much. So yeah, they're great. So oh man, I love that one.
Well, there are so many good stories in here, and there's no way we're going to be able to get to them all. But there's just a couple other things that I think that we should bring up. James Mallock.
Mm.
Just his existence is interesting. James Mallock is the knacker man. So when the vet fails, essentially when an animal dies, something has to be done with this carcass. And in these agricultural towns, you have a knacker man, and in Derby, it's James Mallock. And so he goes out and he takes these dead animals back to his place, and he uses them. He'll send the skins off to a tanner. He'll boil the fat down for soap. He'll take the meat and sell it to the dog food company. And
they
so
make bone meal.
Yeah, he's really a very, very practical person here out of it. But a couple things that are interesting or I think is fun about him. One is that his children who live in this courtyard of death,
and it
where all
stinks.
these dead animals are apparently the absolute healthiest children in the village. They never get sick. They're cheerful.
Yeah, James sees one of them like picking something off the ground and eating it. He's like, oh, what's that? He's like, oh no, it's all good.
Yeah.
They do that.
It's messed up.
It's the best bone meal around.
The other thing about Mallock, though, since he's dealing with all these dead animals, most of the farmers will ask his opinion.
Yeah.
They'll ask him, well, why did this animal die? And Mallock apparently is a nice guy. James really likes him, but this causes some friction because Mallock never hesitates to answer. He always knows what killed an animal. Apparently, he ended up coming up with 4 rotating diagnoses that he could look at an animal from across the yard and say, that's what got it. They're all nonsense, but here they are. Here are the 4. Stagnation o' to lungs, black rot, gastric ulcers, and gallstones.
Those will get you.
As a physician, we often get people coming in who think they know the answers to stuff. Sometimes they do, but more often than not, we hear things like gastric ulcers
And gallstones.
Yeah. And it can be a challenge to deal with that. And so I love this because it just, I can relate. I can identify with that.
I mean, the farmers always know what's wrong with someone else's animal.
Yeah.
They talk about the farmers show up and be like, well, I got it, and here's what you did, or here's what the other vet would do, or here's what Mr. Farnon would do. He navigates quite a broad spectrum of attitudes and prejudices, but the hospitality shows up over and over as well, because he does go out there and he works hard, and he'll find what these people can give is, if they just slaughtered a pig, he'll find some bacon to take home or some butter from the cow or things that they're small thing, or eggs, that they can actually contribute as a thank you. So that is a really beautiful piece of their hospitality and custom there too.
I don't think we can do this book justice without talking about the Sidlow family. That's the family that is just certain that vets are useless.
Yeah.
It's absolutely absurd to call a vet at any point because they never do any good. This family is horrible.
They really are a bummer.
They have all these home treatments that just kill and destroy the animal. I mean, they try and poke food down the throat of a bull with a broom. I mean, some awful things.
Yeah.
And then by the time they call the vet, it's just worthless. And this is one of the stories that gets told, is his interactions with the Sidlows. And it really is horrible. But the funny part about this, or the part I enjoy, or the part that's a little bit less horrible, is one day James gets invited to go be the vet at the races for the racehorses. He is not a horseman, Siegfried is the horseman. So usually it's Siegfried that goes to get called to do this, but Siegfried's off doing something, so James gets to go do it. And it's apparently a pretty easy job. You go, you don't have to do much, and you get to watch the races, so it's kind of fun. Well, the time he goes, a horse falls and lacerates its knee. So there's this big wound on the knee. And so James goes up to it and talks with the guy handling the horse and says, okay, yeah, I think I can patch this up. Who's going to take care of him, though, when he gets home? And the guy mentions a name that is apparently legendary in the veterinary world. James is intimidated and he's terrified that this august figure is going to see his work and judge it. And so he gets meticulous about this. He spends an hour, tiny sutures, really does a good job on this horse because he's so worried about what this other vet is going to say. Well, the horse keeper is really appreciative of this. He really loves the horse. And so he goes up to James and says, hey, do you bet on the horses? And James says, no, I don't know anything about it. That's not what I do. And the guy says, well, don't worry about it. This horse in this race is going to win. The odds are going to be huge. Bet everything you've got on it.
Yeah, some insider knowledge there. He's very confident.
He's very confident. And this kind of gets through to Herriot. And he decides, you know what? I'm going to do this. And so he goes home, goes to his bank, because this is before debit cards, and he pulls out basically half of his available money he's got.
It's like £5, which was a fortune for him.
Yeah.
And he's ready to go. He's ready to go out the door. And then Mr. Sidlow calls. It's like death knell.
And it's a nightmare, like every trip out there is. But he thinks, okay, this won't be bad. This is on the way to the races. I can just do this, make it happen. Everything goes wrong. He ends up losing his thermometer in an animal. He ends up getting it back, but this takes time. All these things take time. Eventually, it's an incurable disease. He's on his way out, though, and he gets to the races right as the doors close. That horse would have won him 10-1 on what he put in. And he says for this reason, he could never quite forgive the Sidlows.
Unforgivable for robbing him of £50. That would be a hard one to swallow. He was out the door. I mean, come on. So I did mention that some of these stories can make you cry. And there's one about an older woman named Mrs. Stubbs. Mm-hmm. Do you remember her?
I do. There were two stories that really make me cry. Mrs. Stubbs, and then I bet we're both going to talk about the other one. So Miss Stubbs, God is near.
God is near. She's bedridden, has been for years, so she never complains, but she has a little, I think it's cardboard sign above her bed that says God is near. But she has these old animals, and so James is there a lot, taking care of them. He really cares about them. I like the cat, actually. He goes to take care of a dog. And they're all old with her, you know, and they're not doing as well as they once were. But he's taking the plaque off a cat's teeth. And there's this huge cat. They describe how big he is. His name's Arthur. He's just the sweetest cat. And there's one part that sticks a little bit when he's getting the plaque off. And like he describes Arthur putting his big kitty paw up. He doesn't get mad. He just puts it up, sheathed, no claws. He says, "Have a care, chum." Like he said, "Have a care." I like Arthur.
I do too.
He came to visit one dog, I think named Prince, but he notices another older dog named Ben, who's not looking great. And yeah, he comes back because he gets a call that Ben is not well, and he's actually dead on arrival. And then they have a conversation that I think I'm going to read to you. So this is James after taking care of Ben, who just passed. And this woman loves her animals, but she's getting old and she's been bedridden for years. And so he says, "I went back and sat down by the bed. Miss Stubbs looked out of the window for a few moments, then turned to me. 'You know, Mr. Herriot,' she said casually, 'it will be my turn next.' 'What do you mean?' he asked. 'Well, tonight Ben has gone, and I'm going to be the next one. I just know it.' 'Oh, nonsense. You're feeling a bit low, that's all. We all do when something like this happens.' But I was disturbed. I had never heard her even hint at such a thing before. 'I'm not afraid,' she said. 'I know there's something better waiting for me. I've never had any doubts.' There was silence between us as she lay calmly looking up at the card on the gas bracket. Then the head on the pillow turned to me again. 'I have only one fear.' Her expression changed with startling suddenness, as if a mask had dropped. The brave face was almost unrecognizable. A kind of terror flickered in her eyes, and she quickly grasped my hand. It's my dogs and cats, Mr. Herriot. I'm afraid I might never see them when I'm gone, and it worries me so. You see, I know I'll be reunited with my parents and my brothers, but, yes, well, why not with your animals? That's just it. She rocked her head on the pillow, and for the first time ever, I saw tears on her cheeks. They say animals have no souls. Who says? Oh, I've read it, and I know a lot of religious people believe it. Well, I don't believe it. I patted the hand which still grasped mine. If having a soul means being able to feel love and loyalty and gratitude, then animals are better off than a lot of humans. You've nothing to worry about there. Oh, I hope you're right. Sometimes I lie at night thinking about it. I know I'm right, Miss Stubbs, and don't you argue with me. They teach us vets all about animals' souls. The tension left her face, and she laughed, with a return of her old spirit. I'm sorry to bore you with this, and I'm not going to talk about it again. But before you go, I want you to be absolutely honest with me. I don't want reassurance from you, just the truth. I know you are very young, but please tell me, what are your beliefs? Will my animals go with me? She stared intently into my eyes. I shifted in my chair and swallowed once or twice. Miss Stubbs, I'm afraid I'm a bit foggy about all this, but I'm absolutely certain of one thing. Wherever you are going, they are going too. And the next time he comes back, it's after Miss Stubbs has passed. Mm-hmm. But what a comfort and what a doctor to give her such peace at that time.
Yes.
I love it.
And this scene has stuck with me. I mean, how can it not? It is a beautiful, beautiful scene. And I too have heard people talk about animal souls and whether they do or don't, and it's an ongoing argument. And this scene always goes through my mind, and I gotta say, I agree with James. Well, after that sad one, let's switch gears to one that I just love. We talked earlier about how when they got the house, or when Siegfried bought the practice from the old doctor, there were all these old tools back there, these relics of a bygone age. Well, in one of the stories, we get to see one of them used. And so I want to talk about this. There are some gypsies that come to town, and the gypsies have a pony, and the pony is not doing well. And so James goes out to see this pony, and it has a condition called laminitis, where essentially there's an infection under the hooves. The hooves become horribly inflamed, and apparently this was a really hard condition to treat. I don't know if it still is, but he says that back then it wasn't uncommon for horses to actually shed their hooves and become permanently crippled with this condition. There were some things that he kind of knew how to do to treat it, but he didn't have any faith that they were going to work, but he tried them, and it broke his heart because the little gypsy girls there loved this horse so much. The family loved it, and so he did what he could, but then he went back home. He's talking to Siegfried about this, or Siegfried asks him, why are you so down? And James is describing this situation, and Siegfried is really being very polite here, really listening, but you can kind of tell he's got an idea in mind. And James can see this too. And so he says, hey, I know you're better with horses. If you've got any ideas here, I'd love to hear it. And Siegfried says, well, I'm willing to come out with you. I've got an idea. You might not like it. And James said, well, we got nothing to lose. Whatever you think, let's go do it. So they go into the storeroom. They go into the old stuff, and they pull out a bloodstick and fleam. A fleam is essentially just a sharp blade, and a bloodstick is kind of a mallet that you hit against it. He's gonna bleed the pony. So they do. They go out, and he bleeds the pony. He cuts into a vein and releases what he describes as like a gallon of blood. This was a very common medical practice back in the Middle Ages, and even until fairly recently, that has fallen out of favor for very good reasons. But apparently, this is something that Siegfried had really good success with, specifically with laminitis. And they cure the pony. This archaic, barbaric, horrific thing cures the pony. James says that ever after, he never had the courage to try it. It was nothing that he could ever do, but this is what Siegfried can bring, is just kind of brilliance and confidence and a way of sometimes coming up with a solution where other people wouldn't have one.
Yeah, it's a good shining moment for him because the horse was going to die if they didn't help it somehow, so why not try? And yeah, these three little gypsy girls love this pony. So he talks about how, okay, now that we've bled it and they got it moving again, they could get it down to this beck, this pool of water. And every day he needs to go stand in this beck and then get moved around and then back and forth. And he's like, it's going to be a lot of work. Is there anybody here who could do it? And these little girls are really shy, but they come up. And he's like, you think you're up for it? Apparently, he just keeps peppermint drops with him at all times. And he listens to these little girls. He draws them out. And James describes that if he's talking to children, he has all the time in the world. And he just treats them with respect. And it's a really sweet interaction. And he entrusts these three little girls who love this pony to really take care of it. And he instructs them what to do and how to do it right. And he has a lot of redeeming qualities, even though he's annoying.
Well, there are many, many more stories in here. And again, I would enjoy talking through all of them, but I don't think we can.
Let's do it. I got two more.
Go for it.
There's actually another fairly poignant story, I thought, that James is helping a wealthy man's dog. He's invited out, but as he's interacting with this man and his dog and helping him, the man's wife is very belittling. And she, give me that salve or, whatever instruction, the medicine I'm the one who's going to do it anyway. And the daughter comes in, the man and the wife have a daughter, and she's pairing of her mom, a copy of her mom. And they're just very belittling of their husband and father. And we're going out, you're no good. He has a tremor. And James wonders if it's Parkinson or just from drinking or whatever. But he sloshes a drink and they're like, oh, not this guy. It's a very sad interaction, even though this man is surrounded by wealth and comfort, presumably looking around. But then the next call James goes to is honestly an exhausted farmer. And he goes, and I forget what even kind of animal, maybe it's pig.
It's a cow, or I'm sorry, no, it is a pig.
It's a pig.
He has erysipelas.
The medical terms, they fly over my head, but erysipelas, that's a cool sounding
He's
one.
able to cure it.
What's erysipelas?
It's an infection.
Okay. Be nice to have antibiotics. Man, I can't imagine how that changed the game. But
He uses a serum. It's wild. Anyway,
serum.
go on.
But this man, the hospitality comes in, so he helps his animal and he invites him into the house and his wife is there and, they have a cup of tea. But as James is leaving, he sees the man relax for a moment. He's just haggard. And it turns out he's been up 72 hours waiting for a calf to be born. And he bumps into the man's daughter outside and she's getting on a bike. And he's like, oh, where are you going?
She's pumping up the tire.
Yeah, she's
furiously pumping up the tire because it won't hold air.
And she has a ways to go, I get the impression. But he asks her, what you doing? And she counts out like sixpence in her hand. And her mission and goal entirely is to get into town to get a bottle of Guinness for her dad to have with his dinner because she knows he's tired and he's been working so hard and because she loves him. And so she actually beats James down the mountain. These are really juxtaposed where it's this wealthy, affluent, but unloving family. And then this hardworking, exhausted, they have very little farmer family, but this girl's going down for her dad. So James is thinking about this as he's driving down. As he's driving, he says, I stared straight ahead, lost in thought. I couldn't stop my mind roaming between the two houses I had visited, between the gracious mansion by the river and the crumbling farmhouse I had just left. I kept coming back to the daughters, to the contempt in the one girl's eyes when she looked at her father, and the shining tenderness in the other girl's eyes. It wasn't so easy to work out as it seemed. In fact, it became increasingly difficult to decide who is getting the most out of their different lives. But as I guided the car over the last few yards of the track and pulled onto the smooth tarmac of the road, it came to me with unexpected clarity. Taking it all in all, if I had the choice to make, I'd settle for the Guinness. Love that story.
Yeah.
I think there's such depth and wisdom there. Think how many lives he sees just in these interactions. Because he's not in a hospital. He's going into people's homes and lives and how they interact. And it's just really well told.
It is.
I'm impressed every time with this book.
Can I guess the other story you were probably going to talk about? Because it's beautiful. The chapter starts, if this is the one, the entry in the ledger for that day was Dean 3, Thompson's Yard, Old Dog Ill.
That's the one.
So he goes to visit the dog, and this is the old man's best friend. This is all the old man has left. His wife is gone, doesn't have any family with him. He lives alone in poverty in this place. James talks about seeing his dinner, which is, like a potato. It's really, really sad, but this man loves this dog, and it's clearly so. And he says basically this dog has been off his feet. He's not eating. I hope you can put him right because it's just not the same without him being his normal self. This doesn't end well. The dog is very, very ill. The dog is sick. He does a great job of describing the exam he does on the dog where he's able to palpate. And what he palpates is a cancer. And it's an inoperable cancer. And it's going to not only kill the dog, but it's going to cause him a lot of pain and soon. At this point, the dog is not in much pain, but it's going to happen and it's going to happen soon. And so he has to tell this man that there's no hope for the dog and that not only can he not cure it, but the best thing is actually to put the dog down so that it doesn't have to deal with this suffering. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, I cry every time I read it. Again, what we're learning out of these stories is I cry a lot, and this is certainly one of the ones that triggers it. The man understands. He says, "Give me a minute." He puts his face against the dog's face and he says goodbye. They have a last moment together. James is able to put the dog down. He does it with an overdose of an anesthetic. So the dog goes to sleep peacefully. And then James even offers to take the dog and bury it. And so he wraps up the dog, takes him away. The man is very grateful. And he shows his gratitude and says, "How much do I owe you for this?" Well, James can't take any money for this. He's in tears and he says, "Nope, this is just a service we do. I'm not going to take any money." You get the sense that the man knows that's not quite right, that he's being given something here, but he accepts it. And James walks out the door with the dog wrapped up, puts the dog in the back of his car, and goes to drive away. Before he can drive away, though, the man runs out after him. He says, "Wait, wait, wait, I have something for you." He wants to give him something. And James talks about how he sees the remnants of an old party favor, this brown little stub. The guy goes up to him and says, Here, have a cigar."
It's very kind-hearted.
Yeah.
Anyone who doesn't cry at a dog being put down who is well loved, I mean,
yeah, you got problems.
Might want to get that looked at. No, it's just very well told. It is beautiful.
And it shows the heart of James, Herriot, but I think it also shows the heart of this man. Mm-hmm. And through him of all the people he sees in this area. He loves them. He admires them. He talks always about their generosity, their kindness, their fairness. They're crusty in their own way. They've got their own issues, but he just admires and respects them. He talks a lot about how these farmers and the people would just have things happen that would just destroy a city man. Dreams dashed, barns burned, animals died, and they would shrug it off with well, these things happen, and keep going.
And get back to work.
And that's great.
Yeah, really hardworking culturally, and a lot to admire there. There's so many good stories in this. Man, we might have to do another one because we're going a while, but there's other funny ones too. But we have to talk about his wife, or future wife, because it is a hilarious just dating sequence. Mm-hmm.
Helen Alderson, he meets on a farm. He goes to take care of I can't remember if it's a cow or a dog, or I can't remember what it is, but something breaks his leg. And he goes to set the broken leg. He puts plaster on it. The dad isn't around for whatever reason, and so it's Helen that takes him out to see the animal, and he fixes the leg, and they just start talking. He says he's not usually much of a chatterbox, but he just talks. They sit out on this hillside with the animals around, and he falls in love really from the beginning on this. But she apparently is in quite high demand throughout the neighborhood.
She's beautiful.
She's beautiful. People are coming after her, and so he doesn't know what his odds are or what his chances are. He knows that she likes music, And so he starts attending this music society meeting every week where they cram into this little place, and he and her and a bunch of old people listen to some performance.
That's right, because he wants to go back to take the plasters off the broken leg of the animal.
Yeah.
But the farmer calls him. He's like, good news, I could just get them off myself. So, that's it. He joins the music society. It's so boring. But they end up washing up together. You know, somebody's got to wash the teacups. And yeah, she's trying to dry it that he just washed, and he will not go. So they have this tug of war moment with a teacup. And then the question, can I see you Saturday? Yeah. And Tristan decides he's going to help.
And this is part of why you love Tristan.
He means well.
He's got James's back. He is there to help him.
And both him and Siegfried are very popular with girls. So, I mean, he has some insider knowledge to help him. But it does not go well. He tells James to take her to the fanciest place around, but it's really far away. He says, you need a jacket, and they pull out the only thing he has is from years ago, and he doesn't fit it at all, but they make it do with like a tuck and a whatever. And the cars, as we mentioned, were an issue, so he's waiting for her in their house, and it's funny because she has a little brother and a little sister, and they just love it. They think he's hilarious. The whole situation is hilarious, and it's just awkward for him. He's in his head. But then they flood the car on their way out.
Yeah, going through a puddle. They can't make it through a puddle.
So they have to turn around so that she can change, and she has to borrow shoes from her dad, who's not happy, and there's some old ridiculous looking thing
with a big silk bow on them. They're like dancing shoes from the last century.
It made me think of Ron Weasley's dress robes in Harry Potter.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot like that. So they end up eventually at this place after a blown tire, and it's just awkward, and there's no music, and he just thinks they're done. It's kind of just the worst possible first date, and she just looks sad. So he lets it go. And the next time he sees her, they're not on a date. Tristan decides to bring up his attitude. So they meet a couple of nurses for drinks. And again, they drink way too much. So he's stupid drunk when he sees this girl that he's in love with again.
It doesn't go well.
No, it's so embarrassing for the guy. She ends up bringing their dog into the Skelda house. Brings her dog in. And she definitely loves animals. Mm-hmm. And Tristan helps him out, gives him a clean lab coat, because she requests James by name.
Yes.
And he says if there's a sick animal around, he's much more comfortable. So they talk very naturally. And he gets to visit with her again. And again, a bad date.
At the movies?
At the movie. He invites her to see something on the Hebrides because they were talking about Scotland, and it just turns into this absurd experience.
I think it's a Western. They just switch the movie.
And she's like, I don't know, I guess let's give it a shot, but it's terrible. Some guy accidentally wakes up suddenly and hits him in the head. I mean, it's just...
Who's snoring loudly on the seat next to him. And then there's a guy down in the audience, a couple rows in front of him, who keeps turning around and looking at him. He's like, what's going on here? And the guy turns around. She died.
Oh, no.
And he keeps turning around giving these, I don't think it had anything to do with her stomach. But this is a patient that he had treated that didn't go well. And this guy in the middle of the movie and this day.
She's dead. And James is digging back in his memory to be like, what animal was this?
I can't remember.
But it all works out because somewhere along the line, Helen starts laughing. She just cracks up. She sees how absurd it is. She's like, next time, let's just go for a walk. And that works much better for them.
Well, and that makes him so happy because she says next time, which means he knows there's going to be a next time.
Yeah, and it's funny because they do get married, but it's really Siegfried who pushes them into it. So it's another Siegfried moment. Where he has this whole conversation with James about, well, you're dragging your feet, and it's so easy. All you need to do is go get married, and what are you waiting for? And then I think it's a week later, because James asks her, she says yes, and he has a sweet, funny interaction with her dad, and all these awkward things. But then Siegfried's like, you were in this big hurry to get married. I don't know what your problem is. You told me to.
Yeah, and he says, you're leaving me in the lurch here. There's this, testing that has to be done, and I'm on my own. You really should have thought through this. And James actually stands up to him. He's like, you know what? we're going to do that testing as a honeymoon. And they do.
They do.
Helen loves animals. He loves animals, and they get to do it together. And they get married, and as far as I know, they live happily ever after.
Yeah. So you mentioned Alf, right? Is his actual name?
James Alfred White, Obefrcvs. Let me walk through that a little bit.
Whew.
So he went by Alf. Apparently, Siegfried, the real Siegfried, always called him Alfred, which is why in the book, Siegfried always calls him James and everyone else calls him Jim. OBE is the Order of the British Empire. It's not a knighthood, but it's that sort of thing. It's an honor bestowed by royalty. And then FRCVS is Fellow of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. Throughout the book, he's simply MRCVS, member of the Royal College of Veterinary Surgeons. So later in life, you can tell that he got a promotion or he was esteemed. He was a country vet for half a century.
Yeah, and he
practiced for 50 years.
He stayed married to the same woman. Her name was Joan. So Helen is Joan. James is Alfred. Helen is Joan. But he wrote these books in his 50s.
Mm-hmm.
So really all these stories, he's looking back. And you mentioned that there are more books. There's a lot more books. I think there's 8 of them.
I think you're right. I know 4. So there's a poem. The title, All Creatures Great and Small, you may wonder where that comes from. That's actually the second line of a poem. All things bright and beautiful, all creatures great and small, all things wise and wonderful. The Lord God made them all. And so the 4 books I know take a line from that one. So All Creatures Great and Small is the first one. All Things Bright and Beautiful is the second one, and so on through the first 4. But you're right. He then wrote more after that.
I only knew the 4 from the poem,
Yeah.
actually. But it goes into more of a story. Because this is just the first couple years of his, activities as a veterinary surgeon. But he wrote them later when he's looking back. And so if you read more, there's times of, he went to serve in World War II. And, he's married with Helen. She comes to live at Skeldale House with them. And just so many animals. You learn more about Tristan and Siegfried. I mean, they just have, it's a whole decades-long life and that he writes about and the people and the characters in it.
Apparently, the guy who is Siegfried Farnon didn't like these books.
Oh, really?
He didn't like the way he was painted. He said at one point, Alfred, this is really a test of our friendship when the first one came out.
Oh.
But they stayed together and they worked together till they retired. So you would kind of expect that from that sort of character. Some of the stuff I was reading was that in the books, Herriot actually polished off some of his rough edges. He was actually a pretty wild guy, I guess, in a lot of ways. And so if anything, he's a toned down version of who he was in real life. The Tristan in real life really liked the books. He liked the way he was portrayed and was a supporter of them, I guess, all throughout. One of the things that gets asked a lot is this truly an autobiography? And the answer to that is no. This is probably about 50% autobiography and 50% fiction. So the best way to think about this really is as a novel based loosely on a real story. Alf graduated from veterinary school, as I understand it, right at the outset of World War II. And so it wasn't that they actually started working together with Siegfried during this thing. Apparently, Siegfried was off serving in the Royal Air Force and said, you take care of my practice while I'm gone. And so he was actually there by himself, I guess, for a while. And then when he came back, he became a salaried partner of the practice. So there are a lot of things like that kind of are variable and different from real life. A lot of the specific stories of animal care come from things in the 60s and 70s. So a lot of the stories are sort of mishmashes and amalgams of things he's experienced over the course of this really long career. I think it's beautiful, though, and I don't think it's any less a good story for being partly fictional.
Yeah, I think he paired things together really deftly, actually, to make some points here and there and just to make it a little funnier here and there. And you can sense a thread throughout. So they're great.
I guess the last point about James Herriot is, do you know where he picked that name, where he got it from? It was a football player. It was a soccer player. It was a goalie.
A Scottish
Soccer
player. He's Scottish. He went to school there.
Yeah, I've actually seen a picture of him like kicking a ball around with James Herriot,
Oh, that's
the
funny.
namesake, and I think that's wonderful.
At the end here, I kind of want to end it with a bit of advice that we mentioned that the tempo of this book is slow. I think it's better if you read it slow. It's a great book. Like our dad would always leave a book in the bathroom. It's a good bathroom book.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you read a chapter or two, you know, it'll either be funny or sweet or sad or something. It's really great in pieces like that. So you can read it all together for sure, but I do recommend just reading it slow. I think it adds to it.
And with that, let's turn the page, and I hope you join us for our next chapter.
Hey, thank you so much for listening. If you're willing, please take a moment to give us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to this podcast. And we would love it if you'd like and follow us on our Facebook page. But best of all, if you enjoy an episode, please share it with a friend. Writing reviews and sharing with others are a pivotal part of the algorithm wizardry that lets other people know about our podcast. Thank you.